Hello to all the VP of Programming and Service of Philanthropy. This is going to be kind of a video for both. We don't have a lot of chapters that have the VP3, I guess is what it would be called, of fundraising or service or philanthropy. I think a lot of people use different titles too. But this is going to be altogether a training for you all. My name is Becca Ramp. I'm the district president for North Carolina over the 9 alumni chapters, in case you don't know who I am or why I'm doing this video for you. This is going to be your lovely training video. And if you have any questions, of course, that come up after this training, feel free to comment on it when I post it to Facebook or to reach out about it. And I will definitely help answer any questions the best I can. So we're gonna jump in and start off with talking about what do I do. So district president, I host a lot of trainings. I really try to be available for whatever anybody needs. My biggest point of contact, of course, is the president, but that doesn't mean that any of you couldn't reach out to me as well. The more questions and brainstorming and help that I can provide, the more support I can provide also. So that's something to keep in mind. So I support alumni chapters, of course, and any new ones that we have. I host Zeta Day, which is a big undertaking, and it will be in Research Triangle. We don't have a date yet. With things with COVID, of course, we're holding off on a lot. But the plan would be in February, as we typically do, and it will be somewhere in the Research Triangle. Work with any PPs if they need any help with advisors, do a lot of my own reports for National Council and International Office, with working with the VPA, which will be Carrie more than likely, our new one coming up. And then if I get to do in-person visits, obviously virtually I can do as many visits as I want, but in-person visits I normally do, and this year would be slated, hopefully, for Winston-Salem, Blue Ridge, and Research Triangle, if we get to do that. So to start off, just jumping in with philanthropy versus service, just as kind of reminders, the act of raising money versus that kind of volunteering, hands-on kind of focus would be how to differentiate. So it's just thinking about that whenever you do the service activity form. It's also going to ask you to differentiate those activities, and both are wonderful in their own way. Oftentimes we're also volunteering at philanthropy events that we do, so that's something to think about. And this past year, the Zeta really allowed and pushed us to be able to do more of a split in terms of fundraising, which is wonderful. So as long as you're giving at least 50% to the foundation, you can choose 50% of whatever you've raised to go to a local nonprofit. It does have to be a nonprofit, but that's something that's really great that we hadn't been able to do before. So I really encourage to select an organization that really shares the same values and mission, and it really makes sense. Doesn't have to be the same philanthropy, it doesn't have to be the same cause, but one, I would be careful in who you select, but one that is going to make sense for your chapter to support, that a lot of the women maybe also agree in supporting this organization within the community. It should not be making strides, for instance. We have a big partnership with them and pay a lot of money to be a big partner with them already. They get a lot of money from Zeta, so that's an example. The same thing like with the NFL, and Bright Pink. So our big partners nationally, we kind of do a lot for, and of course we volunteer more of that service aspect, but in terms of raising money, pick some other nonprofit within the community, and then that's going to be really helpful to support somebody in the community as well. And again, you could get your members involved in thinking about, is there somebody or some group that they really like, that they really recommend that you all could do a fundraiser with and be able to have that split. And you do send that off to IO, and then they'll take in 50%, and then they'll cut an official check to the nonprofit and send it back to them. So that's a nice kind of way to do it in terms of taxes and the things that need to come with that too. So for the programming piece, a lot of people choose to use themes to kind of be their yearly guidance of programming. That's totally up to you and totally up to your chapter about if they have some good ideas around a theme that they could really intertwine with a lot of events. We don't want a theme just to have a theme if you're not going to actually incorporate it. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But if you could do a lot of advertising around it, somebody has a lot of great ideas, and then you have a lot of programming that can go along with this, easy ways to intertwine this into each program that you do, then that would make sense. So I know lots of chapters have done a lot of different things. There's a VP of Programming Facebook group that I hope you're all a part of. And that's one where they share a lot of ideas as well if you're looking for ideas around themes. But you can be creative. You can do one that fits your town locally, or you can do one that connects with CREED or with the national organization as a whole. It's really up to you. And if any of these graphics don't come through, because for some reason it didn't on the last one, but to me, looking at it right now, for instance, it looks fine. I'm going to post the Prezi link as well with it. So the IO recently released the duties and responsibilities revamped for each officer role, and that is wonderful because we haven't had one in a long time. So this is one for VP of Programming, serves as kind of that right-hand person to the president, submitting chapter activity forms, which we're going to go over, and kind of a lot of different roles when it comes to activities. But I don't want you to think that that means you have to host every single event, be at every single event, or be the point of contact for every single event. That is too much, especially for some of our bigger chapters that are just doing a lot. So delegating is going to be important. Can there be other people just even besides EC officers who can be the point of contact and take the lead on whatever event? Maybe there's a lot of Crown Connection chairs that can help, or just members that have a good connection with this service organization, for instance, or this nonprofit, for instance, where you want to do a service event. They can be the point of contact for that event, and the ones who share all the information and really push it and help advertise. So your job definitely has a lot to do with activities and leading events and brainstorming and ideas, but that doesn't mean you have to be or should be responsible for every single aspect of that. And we'll go over the chapter activity report in a minute. So it's also, you'd be working with a lot of the committee or Crown chapter chair, Crown Connection chairs, if you have them, representing, of course, you'd be representing Zeta as a whole, as all of our officers do. I don't know why that word was hard. Social media and historian, you'll work really a lot with them because of advertising, of course, and any of the other programming type things like alumni collegiate relations and any national service like the Making Strides. If there is a Making Strides in your area, you're working closely with whoever's the volunteer for that to make sure that the chapter's involved. There's also all these standing committees that are listed. So that's something that I hope you've seen this document. I can send it to you if you haven't. So let me know. It's in Z Learning. So when we talk about things, when we talk about different files or reports and where they kind of exist, it's going to be Database and Z Learning are really your main points of contact there, which I meant to say in the beginning. And IO's really been good about updating them a lot. So that's been really wonderful too. But if it's hard to find something or you're having difficulty, just let me know. And I have everything saved, so I can just send it to you. More about chair people and what they do within the role and how you'd kind of work with them as well throughout that. Crown chapter criteria is still listed as 2018-2020. We don't anticipate that that's going to change that much. If it does, I'll let you know. But we don't have it. If it does change, we don't have it yet. So we're just going to go off of this one. Within programming, it's sponsoring a minimum of one activity per year. Obviously, every chapter does that. And being able to have a favorable attitude towards ZTA. Activities could be service, leadership, community project, philanthropy, etc. So it's really not that pushing you like that much in terms of overwhelming yourself to do programming. There's, on average, people do about one a month in terms of programs or hosting some kind of event. It could be service, could be philanthropy, could be just a sisterhood kind of event. So you can have a lot of flexibility there, but that's really not a lot in terms of requirements. So that's something to consider. What you're going to see a little more of is the requirements under collegiate support and how the alumni relations are going. And then, do you guys support your local chapter? What does that look like? And there's some requirements there too. But if you do have an alumni collegiate person, they would probably take on that role a little more also. So in Database, when you go in, it's going to list the activity report under the president. This is just where they've housed it, but it is not the president's role by themselves. If you guys decide the president's going to submit some of those activity reports or those service and philanthropy reports, that's fine. Somebody needs to be submitting it though. And as a part of the annual report, there is a programming section, and it wouldn't be about the chapter activity. It's like an overarching, more general, how did programming go this year section. And the president can reach out to you about that, and hopefully will, as I told them, to really include the officers on helping them with the annual report. But it just happens to be where it's housed. To submit your chapter activity report and the philanthropy service one is under, you have the arrow that is over here to the left. It is under president, and you do actions, and then you'd select that. One of those two, depending on what role you're in. So the activity report, you're gonna have date, type of activity, and it's gonna ask, normally those are like sisterhood, and I can't remember off the top of my head the other activity types that are listed underneath there. You can put the title, and then it tells you the character. So certainly I encourage people to draft something in Word if you really want to provide a lot of detail, to make sure you're not going over the character limit, and make sure you're being brief and descriptive enough though. So saying things like, we had a really great sisterhood time, like that's really vague in general. So trying to be more specific there. What did you guys do? Is there any fun, unique food you tried? Was there intention behind why this event existed? Were there icebreakers used? And trying to just paint a more unique picture than just like, we went and had a good time. If you really want to say that, I don't really care, but I just want to throw it out there that if you want them to really know why this event was special, let's stay away from wasting time with the vague words and be more specific on why this was unique, creative, and something, the things that you really want to stand out about that activity. And they call it activity, but it's really a program. So I know that may be confusing. It's something that you guys did. It could have been a meeting that you had. It could have also been you went to dinner. It could have been that you hosted a virtual trivia night, right? Like many different things. And then towards the bottom, like frequency. So you can put in the frequency if it happens every 2 weeks. And then you'd put how many people attended is also at the bottom, but it got cut off. Then for service and philanthropy, at the beginning of this activity form, it tells you how to calculate numbers, which is really helpful because that was hard on the last annual report, how to calculate. So it tells you in the beginning how to calculate, because then it's going to ask you about your numbers. Then it's going to have the description of the event and go into volunteers, total numbers, any amount raised, and if there were chapter members who planned the activity. So that would be nice to be able to say if there were EC members or chapter members who were not just the VP of programming or the VP of service and philanthropy. Okay, so it's always important to try to get as much feedback from members as possible. At the beginning, maybe quarterly, and then at the end about how things are going. This is something that when people stop coming to events and we haven't been asking them how it's been going throughout the year, it can help guide us if we need to make some event changes or kind of programming changes in the middle of the year. So it can be really helpful. So trying to just get as much information. I'm not talking about personal information. You need to talk about their childhood. I'm literally just asking about what chapter they were in, what kind of programs they like, their interests and hobbies is great. Do they have children? What do they do for a living? You know, things like that. Do they have limitations in terms of maybe they have multiple jobs, so there's certain times, days that they can never do in terms of attending an event. And if you always want to keep in mind if somebody, of course, is interested in a leadership role, understanding your chapter. This is where it would be important to pull the chapter and get feedback. Are there organizations that they feel, some of the members feel really strongly about supporting? And are they ones that they feel strongly about not supporting? And that could cause some tension and drama if we did support it and didn't know. So that's going to be important when it comes to that service and philanthropy. And being able to help with Crown Connections too. A lot of our bigger chapters use Crown Connections, but the smaller ones can as well. Those are intentional. They can be way more intimate, so you can get to know people better, talk to them more, and actually implement those shared hobbies, shared profession, shared, sharing just the fact that you're both moms or whatever that may be, in terms of the connection the Crown Connection as a whole. So there's lots of Crown Connection ideas, and they go from book club, of course, has been really easy to do virtually as well. Parent mom groups, caregiver groups. Caregiver is a nice way to say it instead of just mom or parent groups too. Fitness groups, trying different, I've seen some groups that have tried different yoga classes together virtually. That looks like a lot of fun. Being able to have happy hours virtually, a lot of people have been doing, of course. There's some like Turquoise Treasures, for instance, which was a group in Florida for 25-year members, 25 plus members. White Violet organization, lunch bunches, crafty sisters, Pinterest type, things like that. But you got to get feedback from your members about what they actually want, what they would be interested in, and then kind of try them out and see what sticks. Lots of programming ideas. You can do holiday parties and ornament exchanges, white elephant parties, Pinterest dinners. Some of this looks very different during COVID. We'll talk about that towards the end. Just again, wanted to show as much information as possible so that you know it, because we're not always going to be limited by a pandemic. So having same day of the month dinner and brunch can be really nice and consistent. So I know Charlotte does second Saturday brunches. Some organizations do. We just host an event every month on the 12th, because then that alters, of course, days of the week as well. So that's something too. Being able to share, like, is this a family-friendly event? Not just like, is it a Crown Connection Kiddos and Crowns type event, but can people bring partners, or partners welcomed, or children welcomed? And is that okay? And being able to share that up front is always nice. Being able to have different fundraising ideas. Of course, you can sell different items. It's trying to think of things where you can sell and host things for the campus community, for the entire community, and not just ask your members to buy things, because your members may not want to be the one who will always have to buy things to support fundraisers. So a Kendra Scott party, for instance, you can bring anybody. You can open that up to the entire community and encourage anybody to come to that, like, whatever 2 to 3 hour period that you all are hosting a fundraiser there. So it's really thinking about the fundraiser parties where you get a portion of the proceeds are great. We just want to make sure that we're opening that up to a lot of people in the community, friends and family and things like that, of people, of our members, because we don't want to put it all on our members to be able to support our scholarships or be the ones who are pivotal in raising money by themselves, or giving money by themselves. So things to consider. Okay, so there's surveys, hopefully, that will help. There's the Crown Chapter criteria, which I already went over, is pretty limited, so I don't know how much that's going to help, but the more composition and understanding that you have of your chapter, the more it's going to be able to guide you with your calendar. Ideally, your president and you all host some kind of EC meeting and training and calendar planning coming up in July, so that you can kind of set the tone for the year. We're going to talk more about COVID towards the end, and ways to kind of consider that. But the more information you get in general from your members before going to that planning meeting, the better it's going to fit your chapter in terms of the programs that you set. So using a variety of venues, of course, is always nice. Having a variety of hosts is always nice. Again, it doesn't always have to be you. People have great ideas, really creative ideas, and want to share a lot of the things that they do. So that could be a really nice opportunity to get somebody more involved who's not an officer. Schedule some pop-ups. So if you see a really, really cool virtual party or virtual trivia thing that's free, or maybe even costs a little, or some kind of concert in the community, and when we get back to that one day, or something, a walk, or anything. If there's anything that you kind of see, Facebook's actually, that's a really good way to use Facebook, is that they have a lot of events, and it's easy to find some around you. So you can consider those pop-ups, like, hey, this is happening on Friday. It's a pop-up event. Some of the sisters are going, so we wanted to share it within the Facebook group so everybody knows. So that's something to consider. There's a lot of really fun stuff going on in most of our communities. We could just share and attend some of those as well, and not always have to reinvent our own event. Volunteering in the community, we've talked about that. Have speakers. around a topic of interest. So if we have in the Wilmington chapter, there's a interior designer. So she hosted an event around how to get the most out of your furniture for the holidays and hosting people, and hosted that at her workplace, and then spoke to us about that. So it was really cool and really unique in that way. So that's something too, that if you have somebody who has an interesting job but they really want to share about it and want to like host something about it, that would be great. And that's somebody there that then you're getting them engaged and keeping them involved, and then they're able to share a lot of their strengths and interests with the group. Of course, include Zeta Day on your calendar, please. I'll get you the date as soon as I possibly can. Probably going to be a while, but I'll get you the date as soon as we possibly can. Think about big events, again, that you can go to in the community, and any other things that you can take advantage of within the community, and things that maybe set your community apart that you can really capitalize on as well. This is something that I shared in the VP of Programming group. I'm not sure if everybody saw it. I shared it, I don't know, a few days ago. But I love it that Delta Gamma is doing this. There's clearly a lot of recent events around racial injustice, around the need for us to reflect all from a place of from having a more anti-racist approach. These are not new events. They've resurfaced in the media, as unfortunately they do in a cyclic kind of way. We just are definitely in a time now where people are wanting more action and more change, and I'm totally there with everybody in that way. And I love that Delta Gamma put these ideas together for their sisters. I saw it on their social media and wanted to share. And some of this, it's really important, is that they are sharing what bigger groups are doing. Active Minds does a lot of free webinars. You can share that with your members, and a few of you can attend it. And then there's an activity that you guys did as a chapter together. There's a lot that already exists, especially if you're somebody who mental health is not, and talking about mental health is nobody's strength within your chapter. I'm a psychologist, but there's not a psychologist in every single chapter. So maybe that's not a strength, but you want to do something to have that conversation, then either watch one live together and then talk about it after, or there's so many good like TED Talks and different guides on like Q&As to go along with a lot of these resources. So you can just literally post and share some of those. You don't have to create all of this from scratch yourself. So I really like how, in addition to that, they shared like a resource list of ideas of how to be more supportive to the Black community, how to have conversations around microaggressions. They did something else around having white privilege and white accountability spaces, understanding more about white supremacy and how that's perpetuated over time. So there's just a lot that you can do that bigger organizations, especially right now with us all being online, are providing a lot of free opportunities to educate and engage people. So as a chapter, there's a lot that you can do when it comes to also bringing that inside your chapter. And we're really under a time where we need to start considering doing things differently. Zeta, of course, will be doing more and more when it comes to this, but because there are bigger groups doing a great job already, you can also just use the bigger groups and what they're doing around a lot of aspects of identity already, and not have to wait for Zeta to release something too. You can take that initiative as well. So more examples, really just like it. The Trevor Project, for instance, is a great one, along with Active Minds. The NCZTA, yes, is another group. Of course, it's doing a lot of great work for the Black community and has a lot of information and webinars and resources. So there's just a lot. Around the pandemic, the American Psychological Association's done a lot around mental health in the pandemic. The CDC, of course, has provided a lot. So it's really thinking about that. These might not be all within your exact comfort zone, but some of your members may want to have this dialogue. Get some experts to literally be the ones that talk to y'all about it through these webinars or through these videos, especially the ones that have a nice speaking, like talking point guide to go along with those talks. Okay, we kind of already went through that. Advertising is really important. Of course, We want to use, we want you to take pictures. Oh gosh, I cannot emphasize that enough. Please take pictures at your events so that we can submit those to IO. So that's really important. But social media, some chapters have been doing the going live with their events when they're at in-person events, when they're at in-person events. That's always fun. Being able to really share on social media what the event's going to look like, what you all are doing. That's going to be a really nice way to get people engaged before they ever even show up to the event. But the consideration of, if you are using Evite and email, that's great, but we're also really going to be needing to use social media. It's where people are. The millennial and below generations and younger generations are using Instagram the most. That's something to keep in mind. Some of the older generations use Facebook the most. Both really matter. If you don't have a Twitter, that's fine. Just the other two really matter. Nobody said you have to get on TikTok. I don't even know how to use TikTok, so nobody said that, but it is something that we just want to stay relevant. We want to stay on relevant platforms and make sure we're connecting in ways that our members are actually connecting back with us. Your website's really important. This is something that I'll go over more briefly with the historians and the social media chairs, but the website needs to be up to date. It needs to have the right information about your events. The president has access, the historian has access, and I don't, there's one other person who has access and I can't remember, but to be able to edit the website, so definitely rely on those people, but making sure all the information about your programming on those events are up to date. And then there's information about photos that's outdated from the last time. So in talking about COVID, of course, we can't not talk about COVID because I know a lot of you have questions about it. The best thing is going to be in the future is to really consider what kinds of events and what considerations we're making for our members when hosting programs. So I do a lot around trauma-informed care, trauma-informed practice, and programming in higher education. It's a lot of trauma resilience and compassion-informed kind of mesh together in responsiveness. So trauma-informed means this idea that everybody kind of walks through life with adversity and a history and a past, and we all are doing the best we can, but you never know what somebody carries with them. So with that, I really like the 6 pillars from SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse Mental Health Systems Administration. I do a lot on this, so I'll try not to get too tangential about it, but there's 6 pillars. I really like us thinking about this in regards to our events and how we're going to manage the fact that our members are going to be in very different spaces upon return, upon any kind of return, or just in the fall in general, because the fall, if you're paying attention to numbers in the state of North Carolina, the fall looks like it's not going to be opening up to in-person that quickly as maybe we had hoped. So it is something to be realistic about that. So a really good place to start is getting a lot of feedback from your members, a lot, more than you probably ever would about programming, which is actually good, about what kind of events they're comfortable with attending at this time. Would they say October sounds like a good time to come back in person? And if they are wanting in-person events starting in October, for instance, would they be more comfortable at a restaurant? Would they be more comfortable? So it goes into that first pillar of these 6 pillars around safety. Would they be more comfortable at a restaurant? Would they be more comfortable with food is provided, but it's only from prepackaged from stores or restaurants in somebody's house? Does the event need to be outside? Would they feel more comfortable if people are wearing masks, or there's somehow temperature checks? Like, what are the things that are going to make people want to actually show up? Or they might tell you, I don't want to actually go to an in-person event at all. One of the benefits of going ahead and saying we're going to do virtual events is that you then have the opportunity to do a very, very good virtual event. There's a lot of creative platforms beyond Zoom that people have been talking about that we can keep talking about. But in terms of hosting trivia, in terms of just being able to do breakouts for smaller group discussion, and being able to do more intentionality around watching things together. And I know Netflix did the party. There's lots of different ways to watch things together and then talk about it. So there's just a lot. I'm not going to get into all of it. There's a lot that we could do. What's hard is if we're scrambling because we had an in-person event and now we have to switch it to virtual, because in reality, we tried too quickly to do in-person events. And so it's really thinking about the quality of your virtual event could be really, really good. The sooner you plan it, the sooner you put more time into it. We just have to really listen to our members around whether they're actually going to want in person or if you should just go ahead and do virtual. And regardless of this, getting feedback from them on what kind of in-person events at this time with the pandemic they're comfortable, and maybe a timeline if they had to guesstimate, but then also what kind of virtual events do they want to attend. So maybe they've seen something really cool. Maybe they even want to host it that people did and they want to replicate that. And I keep saying trivia as an example because that's one of the ones that I liked the most that Azasia Chapter did. But there's lots of different things that people can do. And so it's just getting those ideas from your members. Maybe they attended something that we've never thought of and they could tell you that and then they want to move forward with that, or they give you the platform or ideas on how to do that. So this is something that is unprecedented times. So we need to be really flexible in getting as much information from them as possible, because I don't want you all wasting your time and trying so hard to plan these events and then nothing, nobody shows up because they're uncomfortable, or they're like, well, we planned this event too soon in person. Well, I wish you would have said that on the survey and just told us to plan virtual events. So it's just trying to gather that information because of that safety. People are going to be anxious potentially or uncomfortable in person at first. So if we are doing in person and people are showing up, are you going to have hand sanitizer? Are you going to be wiping down stuff? Are you going to be taking temperatures? Like, what's it going to look like? Are you going to be social distancing? So trying to really paint a picture of what the event will look like if you're going to host something in person. Data has not come out with any specific things yet saying no in person for the entire fall or yes in person for the entire fall, as I'm sure most of you are aware. So we don't have a definite answer. It's going to be up to you all to go along with the state and what the state says, of course, and then also what your members say that they actually want. So being trustworthy is another one of the pillars. Starting and ending on time is really a big deal just for consistency and doing what you say you're going to do. And the end time may be like, okay, we said we'd end at 9. If anybody wants to hop off, feel free to, but maybe there's some of you that are going to stay. That's perfectly fine. Consider building activities within the program that kind of create some pairing. So if that's breakouts, if that's kind of Zeta speed dating, whatever it is, to be more intentional about having people intermingle instead of being cliquish. I know that some people only see each other at Zeta events, but it is hard for new people if they don't get to talk to more than like one person at that event. They are definitely less likely to come back. So the more people they can engage with, the better. We want to provide a lot of relationship building activities. We talked about empowerment a little already, asking for that feedback. If there's change that a member really wants to see, then that's something that I would encourage, if they have a great idea, that they can run with that too. If they really like this organization and want us to start working with them more and host a service event or have some volunteer at their event that this group has on a Saturday or something, then they can reach out to that organization and they can make that happen. I'm all about, if you have an idea and you want to see a change, then go be that change and go lead it. Instead of like, I have this great idea, now I'm going to put this extra work on somebody else. It doesn't work with me. And that's something that isn't helpful. So empowering them that they can do it and they can handle that. And you appreciate the feedback on what they're wishing they could see in terms of change. And now you'd appreciate if they also help do it. Train people to replace you. So one of the things that I think sometimes we don't do enough is throughout the year thinking about, we're going to be asking this next group, these next people or these members to be EC officers in the future. Do we make our role look inviting? Do we make it look like something that anybody would want to do? And being really aware of that, you're going to need to really be transparent and want somebody to want to replace you and want somebody to want to also be in that role, because, it looked like a lot of fun and that you made it, not that you made it look easy. I think sometimes we do make it look easy, but more of like that there were a lot of positives that you shared about what you got out of that year round at events and not just in March when we start looking for officers too. So we talked about options for feedback year round, not just at the beginning and end of the year. That's going to be important. The shared vision. So that collaboration piece is important with our members, getting their buy-in about the community and what really works, building those crowd connections. And then we talked about too, having follow-up people for events. Don't just let the person who they came with, if somebody came with a person, don't just be like, oh, that person will follow up. It's nice for them to have somebody else who's following up with them. So they're building multiple relationships. And having an intentional point person at every event is just nice, because you're not going to be, more than likely, you're not going to be at every single event. So knowing that so-and-so is the point person who's going to make sure things go smoothly at that event can just be really helpful for you in general. So the last thing is about considering history, gender, and culture, and the history, gender, and culture of your community, of your organization, and how that impacts the way that we host events as well. People have a lot of visible and invisible identities. Obviously, mental health is an invisible identity. So it's considering this a lot in programming. I am all about providing people as much transparency around, this is the event we're having, this is what it looks like, this is what you can expect from this event, this is the cost you can expect from this event, this is what we're covering, this is the best way to engage in this, especially if it's virtual. Not everybody knows how to use Zoom, even though I know a lot of us think that everybody does at this point, because we do, but not everybody does. So even in providing that kind of guidance and how to use the platform of whatever you're using virtually, directions about how to get to a place whenever you're hosting an event somewhere too, even though, yes, could they Google it? Sure. Just trying to be helpful and providing as much structure and transparency as possible. I just think people strive with structure, so the more we can provide them. And then the less anxious people are going to be, the more they know about the event. Like, this is exactly what you signed up for. We were very honest about this event was going to include X, Y, and Z. And so this is something that we hope you considered in agreeing to come to this. So I bring that up though, because it comes along with that mental health thing. Sometimes people get more anxious if they get to an event and it's not at all what they were told. And it can be more triggering. Or if they would have known they were having a speaker on this topic, they wouldn't have come, because they would have been able to know about themselves that this was going to be too much for them to sit through. So the more and more we can share, like, this is exactly what this event is going to look like, the more that they can really reflect on if this is going to be a good fit for them to come to this exact program. The other thing is that in an officer role, if we're bystanders, and this is just in life all the time too, but if we're a bystander, the person who is impacted now views not just the person who said something offensive as offending them, but the other person who didn't is now lumped into, well, you agree with that person. So now there's two people that maybe think something poorly of an aspect of my identity as a human, and that feels way worse, right? So really considering ways to not be a bystander, that's its own program in itself, but it is an important one. And it's not assuming just because of visibility as well. It's not assuming, like, even gender identity. Everybody has different, not everybody, but some people have different pronouns than the way that their gender appears. Not everybody's cisgender. Sexual orientation as well. We live in a very heteronormative culture where I use a lot of, they can bring their partners, they can bring close friends, because not everybody has a husband. That's not how they identify. So being really careful and intentional with language around the way that we talk about things. I say my husband because that's how I use that language to describe my husband. That's not the way that I use that when talking to other people if I'm referring to a blanket statement around partners, because that's more inclusive. For instance, it's thinking about the ideas that gender identity and sexual orientation are not a lifestyle. That still comes up a lot, to say, like, we all have our lifestyle choices. I think there's enough research there now that we can all at least agree that we could be educated in this area to say it should be, that it's not a choice, and it is something that being able to reflect on it from an aspect of identity, and something that can be really important but feel very lonely at times if somebody doesn't feel included, is why we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can to not say things that are offensive, to not assume any aspect of identity, and to not perpetuate stereotypes like it's a lifestyle choice, right? So just, I'm not going to get too much into all this because I could talk about it forever, but the last thing would be, white supremacy does exist in many, many forms, and we are encouraging an anti-racist approach, of course, within Zeta as a whole, but also just, I think, the world, especially within this country, should be as well. This is not getting political. These are about people's lives and things that I've done and different situations that have caused a lot of damage, of course, to the Black community, but also to many people who witnessing it allow themselves to experience a lot of empathy and sadness that any group has to be worried and scared in the ways that certain groups do. So that's always scary there too. So we just want to be modeling and making sure that we're staying educated and informed, and that we do receive that feedback openly from members if they feel like we are perpetuating stereotypes, or if they feel like somebody did say something racist or somebody did say something offensive that they weren't comfortable saying in the moment, you know, not being a bystander in the moment, but that they want somebody to follow up with them about it. So this is just, it's a time where Zeta will be coming out with more and more, of course, but we also want to make sure that we're doing the best that we can within our membership in order to create those environments, because you're the ones that they see. You're the ones that the members interact with. They don't interact with IO staff at these events. So it's just important that you're kind of that frontline person. I think I covered everything. I hope you all engage in some of the virtual convention videos and opportunities. Lindsay is speaking tonight. She was our Zeta Day speaker, for those of you who don't remember. And she's amazing. If you were at Zeta Day and saw her, you remember she was amazing and is amazing, present tense. So please tune into that. And there's Crown Chapter and other events going on Saturday that will also be really fun. So wanted to throw that out there. Thank you so much for listening and watching. If there's any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to me and let me know. And I'll post everything with the links and any information that you want as well. Thanks.